Hi, welcome back. I missed yesterday. Did you notice I missed yesterday? Um, it was just a bit busy with an unexpected extra person in the house as my daughter had the day off school. So yeah, huge apologies because I was really looking forward to being on yesterday, and yeah, that just in amongst some other stuff meant that it didn't happen. So here we are for day 55, and in fact, today is the day of the recent partial eclipse that's been over the southern hemisphere. So in some ways, it's perfect because I kind of like the fact we've got a 55 with that day, with this day. And having just come out of the World Fig community, where Luna Gladman, who I've mentioned before in one of these, she wrote a book called The Whole Human. And oh look, Portia's here. Normally she's not here, is she? 'Cause for this exact reason. But I thought I'd let her stay in today. So Luna also has a space within the Wildford community where she shares tarot card readings. And so she did one for today for this eclipse energy to share what she's been, what the cards have been saying really all week with herself and with people that she's been doing readings for. And she said there's been a theme of, I'm just going to turn my keyboard off in case the cat stands on it. There's been a theme of ego patterns surfacing. So things that perhaps we thought we dealt with already have been coming back to the surface. And this is what happens all the time. So there's a video I did once called The Spiral of Enlightenment, and how each time we go up, each time we see one of these patterns and we're with it and we're present with it and we don't react in the same way that we've always done. It's great having a tail in the way. Um, it's like that's a little bit more space. It's a little bit more information to the system to tell us that we're okay. We're absolutely okay in this experience. And so the contraction with it, the constriction with it, reactions with it get less and less each time we kind of move up this spiral. So I'll perhaps I'll see if I can put that video at the end of this one so that you can click straight through to it and watch that video about how I see the enlightenment process going. Um, so not surprisingly, then when there are these movements and shifts, like with eclipses, which change the contraction and expansion levels of us at a human level, it's like, yeah, if there's been a contraction, then that is going to have us feel things are more personal. It's going to feel that the ego patterns are going to be more emphasized. But then always, because it's like a breath, that's always going to be followed by an expansion. And so as we move through it, then we come into this expansion, and then we feel lighter again, and we've potentially disconnected or disidentified from that pattern a little bit more, especially if we're actually in this exploration, because then we know what's going on. We know that it's not really telling us about us or the world or the other person we live with. All it's doing is telling us that there's a contraction happening, and in a contraction, ego stories run crazy. Ego stories just that's what happens. That's what happens in a contracted space, in a contracted environment. And and the more we know who we really are, the less we get caught up with those stories, the less we identify with them, then the more spacious we continue to remain. We remain as ourself while these stories are playing out. And it's kind of like, so to begin with, it's also tight in, and we're just totally in it. With time, as we can stay grounded and remember ourselves in the midst of the pattern, it's like that itself is the lightening of the experience and the increasing disidentification with it, which then itself means that next time that pattern might show up again, we have that increased capacity in our system to remain even more spacious and disidentify even more from it. And hence this upward spiral. So the same pattern shows up along the spiral, but each time it comes round, it's a little bit less convincing, it's a little bit less contracted, it's a little bit less reactive. So anyway, given that Luna had shared that, and I actually, so I only just saw that, but I in fact tuned in to get this title for this transmission this morning. So I was tuning in to ask about something else, And while I was there, I was like, "Oh, actually, what's the theme for today's transmission?" And I heard this phrase, "cleansing flame." And I meant to check back actually. I had a feeling we'd had something else in the past that was related to fire. But anyway, yeah, this cleansing flame theme came through. And so then having had that already, and then going and seeing Luna's card reading in the community, it was like, oh my goodness, how perfect. Because what's been happening is people have been feeling this contraction, feeling these ego stories coming back up again. And now, so over the coming days, that there might be the sort of remnants of that moving through. This was from Luna's reading. Thank you, Luna. Um, but then you'll start to move into feeling like really returning to that feeling of yourself, returning to the feeling of alignment, returning to the feeling of flow of the river. If you've been watching my inner navigation series this week, and yeah, and so this transmission tonight is supportive of this process, because given you might still be in the midst of the contraction and the murk of it all, you might still be in the midst of the ego stories. This transmission is going to support the clearing, the cleansing of those. And I hear clearing and cleansing as just this disidentification. It's this recognition of who I am in relation to the ego stories, so that I don't need to get caught up in them. I don't need to believe them. I don't need to follow them down their paths. And that is the experience that we call a clearing or a cleansing. Kind of like there's been disconnected, the cord has been severed. So yeah, so I'm super excited that, well, I'm actually super excited that I didn't do this yesterday, because it feels right that day 55 eclipse, the theme of cleansing flame, the card reading Luna just did, it's like all feels beautifully aligned and perfect. So yeah, and if you haven't been watching it, so I have been live all week on this inner navigation series. It's a playlist in here. So if you want to check that out and hear more about enlightenment as well, that's what I've been talking about today. So a lot of what I've just been sharing there is like a mini version of that. So if you want to hear more about that, then go watch today's day 4, Navigating Enlightenment, and you can hear more about it. But for now, with my cat in front of me, we shall go live with our transmission. So as always, 15 minutes, the gong will sound when we're done. If you can stay sitting, then great. We'll see what Portia does while we move through this time. But no worries, like, yeah, she might distract me slightly, but it doesn't affect the transmission, so that's all cool. She wouldn't normally be here if it was a one-to-one session, it's fair to say, for this exact reason. It's funny though, it's the second time today she's been up on the desk. She hardly ever does actually get up here, but I don't have her in here just in case, for a private session at least. Anyway, let's stop rambling. And hello, sweets. Let's have our transmission. So, if you're all ready, get yourself comfy, sit yourself down. Where do you want to go, Portia? Are you going to come on my knee? No? Yes? Okay, let's do that. Lovely. You sit there. Great. She'll curl herself up now and be a comfy ball for the next 15 minutes. The tail will disappear. Okay, let's begin. Settle yourself down, close your eyes, feet on the ground. I will do the same here, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Thank you for joining me. Much love.